Yesterday afternoon, not one but two humpback whales were found entangled in shark nets at Kirra Beach on the Gold Coast and Markoola Beach on the Sunshine Coast. While it's great news to hear they were both successfully freed, marine experts are up in arms and calling for the complete removal of shark nets. Dr Leonardo Guida is a shark specialist at the Australian Marine Conservation Society. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Terry. Thanks for having me on.
Take us through what happened yesterday.
So yesterday at about 10 a.m, we were alerted to the fact that at Kirra Beach on the Gold Coast, there was a whale entanglement. And then quite alarmingly and surprisingly, shortly thereafter, we were notified again that there was actually two happening at the same time. And the other one was Markoola on the Sunshine Coast. As soon as we could, we raced down to the Gold Coast. I'm based in Brisbane to be on the scene and understand better on the ground what was happening. And it's extremely tiring. And I'm at a loss for words and getting really angry, to be honest, because this happens every year like clockwork. We know when these whales come, and there is no reason these nets should be in the water at the very, very least when the whales are coming through. But more importantly than that is that with all the available scientific evidence that we have on top of the court ruling in 2019 with the Administrative Appeals Tribunal, there is overwhelming, to quote the tribunal, there's overwhelming evidence that shark nets do not improve safety by any measure. So the other really important factor is that there's actually no benefit to humans having the nets there, let alone wildlife. And what we really want the Queensland Government to do is to get the nets out now and put things like drones up in the air so that we can actually modernise and improve beach safety for people and wildlife.
Few things to ask you about there. Stepping it back a little bit though, just tell me how many incidents like this are people like you being called to during this particular time of the year?
It does vary year on year, but what we're finding is, in 2020, we had 4 whale entanglements in just as many days. We had 4 entanglements in 4 weeks and 3 were in 3 days. That was in 2020 and Gold Coast beaches again. Last year we had entanglements. This year we've had 4. And each year we're likely to see the entanglements grow in number because humpback whale numbers are bouncing back in number. There's an estimated 35 to 40,000 of them now.
And so this is obviously the time when it is so busy along that stretch of water off our coastline, off the Gold Coast, off the Sunshine Coast. You have a lot of whales in their migration route. Is it that the shark nets are too far out, that are impinging into the route that they would normally take? If the shark nets were closer to shore, would it make any difference, do you think?
Shark nets aren't going to make a difference to anyone or anything. The whales are coming in closer to shore because it's easier to swim, the waters are a bit warmer, and when they're in close to shore, it's amazing for people because we've got tourism operators out on the Gold Coast and the Sunny Coast that go whale watching. People can see them from the shore. So having the shark nets in the water, it's not going to matter where you put them, there's going to be damage done. And the reality is that with shark nets, sharks are going to swim over, under and around them anyway. They're not barriers.
You touched on a court ruling, a tribunal ruling a couple of years back. What was all that about?
So Humane Society International challenged the Queensland Government with regards to shark culling in the Great Barrier Reef. And as part of that ruling, they they questioned a lot of scientists from a range of experts. And ultimately what the ruling found was, with all the evidence presented by scientists, that it was overwhelming that lethal measures of shark control do not improve people's safety. And in fact, the Queensland Government spokesperson, Darryl McPhee, a scientist and a respected scientist in that, and I respect him quite well, he admitted that, he wouldn't put in a lethal control measured program because it's not going to improve safety. So we want to ask, and we want people to ask the Queensland Government why shark culling still persists, why the nets are still in the water when any change or any modernisation to beach safety is going to be an improvement. And again, we stress that human life is extremely important. I do not deny that for a second. So the real message is we need to improve and modernise beach safety, and nets in the water is not the answer.
You're listening to Dr Leonardo Guida, a shark specialist at the Australian Marine Conservation Society, and one of those people who rush to a whale being entangled in shark netting. He says it's happening so often. It is not what we should be doing in terms of protecting, in inverted commas, our beaches. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say on this matter. Do you think shark nets are outdated? They're the wrong thing to do? 1300 222 612. Do they make you feel safer? Is it more of a psychological thing for you if you know that there are shark nets off the beaches? 1300 222 612. Tell me about what you think on this one. Dr Guida, are there other states in Australia, for example, Western Australia, that don't have shark nets or that take shark nets down when it is going to be a busy time for whales heading along the coastline? Like, would that work?
Yeah, to be really blunt, Queensland's in a pretty embarrassing position. In New South Wales, just across the border, just next door, the nets are removed during the whale migration season. And so these nets have dodged those gauntlets, and then as soon as they hit Queensland, there's nets again. When we look at Western Australia has one of the more comprehensive programs in terms of beach safety and non-lethal beach safety. They use a range of shark tagging and tracking programs. The government subsidises personal shark deterrents. And at some of the beaches like Cottesloe, there are actual eco barriers. So these are from the seafloor to the surface, enclosed areas that swimmers can swim in. And they're quite popular with the locals. So there are solutions. And when we look at solutions for Queensland, the government's own commission Cardno report stated that drones were one of the viable options in southeast Queensland. So drones can go up, they can see through the water, they can spot sharks, and they can alert lifesavers to temporarily close a beach and keep people safe and alert. But more importantly than that, drones, for example, have bang for buck. When they were doing the drone trials in 2020, 3 people were spotted struggling to swim. Now, those people could have drowned had that drone had not been up. So drowning is the real killer at Queensland beaches, and having drones up in the air more often at these popular beaches not only alerts people to dangers in the water as far as wildlife is concerned, but it is keeping an eye out on people who do get caught up in rips and so on and so forth.
Dr.
So there are solutions.
Can we just pause for a moment there? We've just got to do a quick traffic update. I want to come back and ask a few more questions of you if you're happy to hang on.
Happy to, thank you.
Talking about shark nets and their involvement in unfortunate whale entanglements in the last couple of days off the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast, and calls now for the Queensland Government to do something about shark nets, take them down and use alternative ways to ensure the protection of humans. Dr Leonardo Guida is a shark specialist at the Australian Marine Conservation Society, and he's stepping you through the arguments for taking down shark nets and using other methods. Dr Guida, you mentioned that New South Wales, which is just over the invisible border really when it comes to the ocean, doesn't have shark nets, takes the shark nets down during this important season for the whale migration. Why has the Queensland Government continued to resist doing so here in Queensland? What reasons has it given?
Do you know what? I ask myself that same question every day. I'm sure a lot of the public do. And I would like to ask Minister Furner the exact same question. Why is there a reluctance for the government to not remove these shark nets when all the available scientific evidence, including recommendations from the Shark Control Program's own scientific working group, supports the idea of removing the nets?
You know,
it can't imagine. I don't understand why. And it'd be great to have a crystal clear answer for the government to justify their position.
I'd like to be able to put some questions to the Minister. We did request Mark Furner, the Agriculture, Industry Development and Fisheries Minister, to come onto the program this afternoon. He was unavailable to us. Instead, we were sent a statement and it reads, "Human life will always come first for the Palaszczuk government. We are investing in research and technology, but we simply will not make changes to the program unless we are convinced they are safe in Queensland conditions. Our contractors and marine animal rescue teams do amazing work to minimise impacts on other marine life while maintaining a program that has helped to keep Queenslanders safe since 1962. And that is the statement from Mark Furner's office. As I mentioned, we did invite the Minister to come on and to explain clearly as to why the Queensland Government won't remove shark nets off our beaches. We're yet to, I guess, get a very clear answer on that. He did say, though, in that statement that the Queensland Government is investing in research and technology. Dr Guida, do you know what that research and technology might be? Do you feel that gives you a glimmer of hope that perhaps Queensland Government will move towards removing shark nets?
Look, I'll give credit where it's due, and it's great to see that the Queensland Government is investing in this research and these alternative means. So by alternative means, as I touched on earlier, they've been doing drone trials for about the past 2 years now. I am aware that they're either just completed or still underway of catch and release programs where they tag sharks and track their movements up in the Great Barrier Reef. And these are alternatives to the traditional drum lines where they catch and literally shoot the sharks dead. Now, that's great, but the reality is that these technologies and techniques have been long in play in New South Wales. They've been long in play in WA. I mean, I understand and appreciate scientific research, but to agree, we've got to stop reinventing the wheel. These technologies work.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I guess all we've got from the government at this point is that it says human life will always come first. So
yeah,
you're saying you can have both.
You can have both, and I agree wholeheartedly that human life is extremely important. And when I say you, I don't mean you personally, but what everyone's got to realise is that there is no benefit whatsoever to culling sharks, drumlines or shark nets. So really, when you think about it, any kind of improvement or change to that program in the right direction is an actual improvement in safety, because you're starting from essentially nothing. So I don't buy the government's argument with that. I'm sorry.
Dr Guida, what do you think public sentiment is around this topic yourself? What are you hearing from people? We know, whale watching and tourism is very important to Queensland, but also, the perception that our beaches are very safe is also important to our tourism industry as well. Do you think people feel more safe having shark nets off our beaches here in Queensland?
I like to ask everyone this question, including everyone listening to the program right now. Queensland Shark Control beach safety standards are from 1962. Would you accept 60-year-old safety standards in your home, in your workplace, where your kids go to school, your sports grounds? I'm going to guess that the answer is no. So then the next question is, why is the beach any different? And by that, I mean we have modern-day solutions to improve safety and lift these standards from essentially nothing at the moment. And that is drone technology, that is tagging and tracking animals, that is advancements in science where we know certain environmental conditions are going to increase the risk. Like recently we've had rains and heavy rains. The risks of bull sharks at river mouths after heavy rains spikes. So couple that with a concerted education programs through the schools. I mean, we learn about crocwise, but we don't learn about sharkwise. Yet how many times do Queenslanders go to the beach and enjoy a surf? So the strategies are comprehensive, and yes, the Queensland Government to a degree is investing in these strategies. But whilst this is happening, this can be rolled out. We don't need nets in the water. We don't need drum lines in the water. We don't need to kill sharks or any other animal for that matter, because turtles, dolphins and whales are all collateral damage too. And these are the foundations of Queensland's tourism industry.
Good to hear from your perspective this afternoon, Dr Leonardo Guida. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Dr Guida, shark specialist at the Australian Marine Conservation Society.